What's happening, guys? Steve here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2020 Ford Mustang GT. But the reason I'm so pumped about the car behind me, it's got Performance Pack Level 2. So, one thing to point out about Performance Pack Level 2, unfortunately, if you're an automatic driver, you're SOL. This thing's only available with the 6-speed manual transmission. Having said that, it's powered by a 5-liter V8 engine, 460 horsepower, 420 foot-pounds of torque. It is a beast coming stock at you. With Performance Pack Level 2, it's going to give you a couple things. It's got upgraded tires on it, upgraded sway bar, a few other things. One of the big ones is going to be the Magneride damping system. It's a really incredible system. Looking up above me here, you're going to find a little bit more of an analysis in what's included in the Level 1 and the 2 Performance Pack. Guys, before we get started, I wanted to first off thank you so much for helping this channel grow. You guys are giving me some great feedback on these videos, and it seems like I'm bringing you guys some real value. So make sure, like the video if you enjoy it, and make sure that you subscribe if you're a fan of what I'm putting out. It really does help the channel grow. Now, one of the other reasons why you want to subscribe is because of this. That's right, $10 Amazon gift card, first come, first serve. Whoever gets that code first is going to be able to get it. So let's have a look at this vehicle, take a peek, and see what it's all about. All right, now a couple of things about Performance Pack Level 2. For all of you drivers who love automatic transmissions, you're SOL. And the reason why is because GT Performance Pack Level 2 is only available with the 6-speed manual transmission. Now, having said that, GT Performance Pack 1 versus 2, there aren't a ton of differences, but the big one is going to be to the suspension. If you look at the suspension on this thing, it's got the Magneride system. So the Magneride system essentially is going to make your car go from this as you're taking corners to this. So it's a really beautiful system, really makes that vehicle hug the road as you get into those sharper turns. Now, do you need the Magneride system? If you're not going to track the car, you really won't notice a big difference if you're just going to be doing it under regular street driving. Now, a couple of things to point out. Axle ratio in the automatic, you've got a 3.55. In the manual, which is what we're looking at behind me here, 3.73 rear locking ratio, which means that it's going to have some quicker acceleration right from the get-go. It's really exciting stuff. Okay, taking a peek under the hood of this thing. So it is a 5-liter V8 engine. As I mentioned, 460 horsepower, 420 foot-pounds of torque. A couple things to point out. We do have that strut brace, so just right along the top here. Beautiful look to it there. This thing is gorgeous, though. Now, when it comes to gas on these things, here's the kicker. If you look at the 460 horsepower, 420 pounds of torque spec, that is based off of using a premium fuel instead. So if you look at the manufacturer's recommendations, minimum 87 octane to run the vehicle. Now that's minimum. That doesn't mean you're going to get that 460 horse and 420 torque. Guys, this is a performance vehicle, especially when you get into the GT Level 1 or 2 Performance Pack. So I do recommend using at least that 91 octane inside of this thing. Now, in order to be able to fill up the tank, really straightforward. Just along the back here, we're just going to press, open up. It's a capless system. Insert the fuel hose. Once you're done, click, lock it back into place, and you're set to go. Okay, now a couple things to point out as we take a peek at the key fob here. So this is a manual transmission vehicle, which is why we don't have remote start. But on the fob, we've got our unlock button, our lock, our trunk release, as well as our horn or our panic alarm button. At the very bottom, if for whatever reason the vehicle ever gets locked out and the fob doesn't work, all you have to do, emergency access, we're just going to press the button here in order to be able to reveal that emergency access key. Push it back in and you're set to go. In order to be able to pop the trunk on this thing, what we're going to do is hit this button here twice. Let's take a peek inside. There we go. So as you can see here, it is a very spacious trunk for a Mustang. You can get a set of golf clubs in the back here. Now, taking a look underneath, we do have the tire inflator kit. Now, the inflator kit, the goop underneath is technically good for 4 years, so you should change that out every 4 years if you don't use it. There is room technically for a mini spare tire. However, in the Performance Pack, the mini spare tire is just not an option. Okay, taking a peek along the driver's side door at the very top. Now, one of the nice things, this thing is the 401 version of the vehicle. We've got a beautiful digital dash on the inside, but we also have seat memory settings. So you can set the seat up, lumbar support, and the seat position, with the exception of the backrest, in order for it to be able to remember your personal preferences. So we've got 3 individual seat settings, so if you are sharing your vehicle with different drivers, you've got the ability to set it up and save it for your own personal preference. Along the side, we've got our typical lock and unlock buttons. Dropping down, the 2 buttons at the very top are going to allow us to adjust the side view mirrors. Dial pad underneath is going to let us to actually adjust the mirror. And then we've got our window up and down buttons down on the side. Okay, now taking a look just along our left-hand side to the left of the steering wheel, at the very top, we've got the button for our fog lamps. So we can press that button to turn the fog lamps on or off. Next one is going to be our switch, our selector switch for the running lamps. So all the way to the left is going to turn our lamps off. And then all the way to the right is going to be our auto setting. Those are really the only 2 settings that I want you to be focused on. The auto setting is automatically going to turn the lights, daytime or nighttime lamps on, depending on how bright it is outside. One more just off to our right-hand side are going to be our dimmer switches. So with our dimmer switches, that's going to control the brightness of the screen in the center cluster, in the instrument cluster, as well as the screen brightness for our Sync 3 system. Moving down a little bit, we've got the ability to open the trunk by pressing this button. And last one, it's a hidden compartment. Not many people know about in the Mustang. What we're gonna do is press this in and pull out. We've now got a sunglasses holder if you want to throw some smokes in there, coins, whatever the case may be. Lock it back in order to close it up again. Okay, now adjusting the seat in this thing is also very, very straightforward. Along the driver's side, the left-hand side, passenger side, it's going to be on the right-hand side. We've got a few levers. So the lever at the very bottom, at the very front I should say here, is going to bring the seat forwards or backwards, or you can lower it or raise the seat by lifting the stick up or down. The one just behind us here is going to be for our power lumbar support. So if you need a little bit of extra back stability, you've got the ability to do that. Now, once you've got that setting set up, once you've got your seat set up and your side view mirrors, press and hold 1, 2, or 3 along the door for it to remember your personal preference. You can always update it later if you need to. Last one for the backrest. In order to be able to adjust that, we've got a little lever in the back. All we're going to do is crank that lever, move it backwards or forwards to your personal preference, release once you're set, and you're off to the races. In order to be able to adjust the steering wheel, it's a little bit different in the Mustang. So normally in Ford vehicles, it's along your left-hand side. In the Mustang, it is on your right side. So right by your right knee, all we're gonna do is crank that lever down, and it's telescopic, so we can move the steering wheel in and out, up and down. Once you've got that good position, that perfect position, all we're gonna do is crank the lever back up to lock it back into place. Okay, this is the screen we're typically going to be met with when the vehicle's first turned on. If for whatever reason you're not on this home screen, at the very top left we've got this home icon. We're just going to press that, and that's going to bring us back to our home screen settings. Looking down, now we've got a ton of different options at the bottom, starting off with our audio settings. We've got different sources that are available, so our AM, FM, Sirius, XM, Bluetooth. If our phone was connected, we would be able to use our phone. It would show up under entertainment sources. Looking at direct tune at the top, it's going to give us the ability to type in a station in order to tune to a different station. We can also use this tuning knob, or we can use the button on the steering wheel for our voice-activated tuning, navigation, etc. In order to be able to save a station into our presets, once you're tuned to the station that you'd like, all we're going to do is press and hold, and that's going to save that preset in there for you. On the very bottom, we've got our climate settings. So climate settings, we've got some settings a little bit further down, but we've got the majority of the settings on this Sync 3 screen. At the very top, we've got our auto setting. That's going to let the vehicle determine what the temperature in the vehicle should be. At the very top, we've got our max AC, our heated steering wheel, as well as our max windshield defroster. Now, one thing to point out on the home screen, we can also turn on the heated steering wheel from the screen, so we don't need to jump into climate menu to do that. This is going to be our power button. That's going to turn the system on or off. We've got our dual zone climate control as well, so it can be different in the driver and passenger side. One thing to note is that the second you start to adjust it on the passenger side, it's going to highlight dual. In order to be able to turn the dual zone climate control off, we're just going to hop into climate, press that dual button, and it's going to default to whatever the driver setting is. Looking down along the side, now we've got our ability to control the driver and passenger side heat settings. We can also do that down from this area. At the very top, we've got the ability to have the fan blowing to the windshield, to our face, or to our feet. We've got the fan control, so we can have control our fan speed. At the very bottom is our air circulation button. So that's going to, with the button on the way it is right now, it's going to circulate cabin inside of the, it's going to circulate air inside of the cabin of the vehicle. This is going to, okay, the very bottom button here is going to give us the ability to circulate air inside the cabin. So with this button turned on, it's going to circulate air inside the cabin. With the button turned off, it's going to pull air from outside the vehicle in. This is going to be our rear window defroster, and then we've got our air conditioning button. Looking at our phones, as you can see, no phones connected. It is very straightforward. Now, one thing to note, it's the same in iPhone as it is in Android. So all we're going to do, add phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Going to pull out your phone, and in a second, we're going to notice something at the very bottom. There we go. So as you can see, Ford Mustang has popped up. So we're just going to select Ford Mustang.
Confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Okay, and as you can see, 084564, so the numbers do match, so yes and pair.
For your safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
There we go. Now, one more thing that's going to pop up on your screen. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync? Absolutely. That's the reason why we're hooking the phone up, so we're going to, yes, say allow. Now, a couple other things to point out. 911 assist. I do recommend keeping that one turned on. And the reason why, with it turned on, if you're ever in an accident, your vehicle will automatically dial 911 for you. Automatic contact download, yes. If we ever update our contacts, we want the vehicle to automatically pull those in for us. Now, as you can see, we've got a ton of options. We've got contacts, my phone, text messages, etc. Jumping into our apps now, I do have a music app installed on my phone. It's LiveX Live on my phone. You also can use Spotify, things like that, directly through the center screen as well. So one of the beautiful things is that it lets you control these apps directly through the vehicle rather than having to use it on your cell phone. Looking now into our general settings, we've got phone settings, which it's going to give us a ton of options now. So we've got the ability to look at text messages, manage our contacts, view our devices, and this is where we would go in order to be able to delete a device. So very straightforward. We can either add in multiple devices, we can look at our currently connected device, we can either disconnect or remove. Very straightforward. Let's hit yes to remove. And as you can see, it's removed the device. Moving back into phone. You can see my phone is now disconnected from the vehicle, so it's very straightforward. Coming into navigation, so the 401 version of the Mustang will have built-in navigation. It is factory nav. One thing to point out, when an update is needed, you either need to download the update yourself, or when your vehicle is in for service, have a technician install it for you. In order to be able to use navigation, very straightforward. All we're going to do is start typing in an address. Make sure you give yourself a little bit of time in between each character, and the reason why is because it's automatically going to complete that address for you. So we've got that address selected. We can do a couple things. If you constantly go to the address, so if it's one that you normally go to, we can save it as a favorite, or we can just start.
Obey traffic laws, be alert, and use voice commands while driving. Please proceed to the highlighted route, and then the route guidance will start.
There we go. So as you can see, we've got our route now that's activated. In order to be able to cancel the route, we're just going to hit this X button and cancel. So very, very straightforward. Cancel the route. Should take a second. There we go. And bring our control screen back up and jump into our menu. We've got a ton of options here. Screen view, traffic, navigation settings, things for like map preferences. So POI icons would be the big one. Do you want things like coffee shops and gas stations to show up? Route preferences, let's go up there for a sec. Route preferences would be our big one. So do we want the fastest, most eco-friendly, or the shortest route? And then at the very bottom, we've also got the ability for our map to avoid freeways, toll roads, tunnels, car trains, etc. So if you have a preference, if you don't like driving on toll roads, you can set that up. And when the navigation's created, when your map is created, it's going to make sure that it avoids toll roads for you. Navigation preferences are just our guidance prompts. So as a turn is coming up, what happens? So we've either got a voice and tone letting us know, strictly a voice or just a tone. So really a matter of personal preference. That's going to be our navigation settings. We've also got the ability to set up our home or work address. When we set those addresses up, if we press the voice activated button and say navigate home, it's automatically going to set up the navigation to our home or our work address. In the very bottom, touched on this as well, it's going to be the apps that are available in the vehicle. Some of the apps will work over Bluetooth, some of them you do need to be plugged in. The vehicle does support Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Apple CarPlay and Sync 3, you do have to be connected to the vehicle, and then with Android Auto, it does work over Bluetooth.
When it comes to settings, ton of options. We've got some basic sound settings that are included, so treble, mid-range, bass, this is where we'd go to select that. Looking at our clock setting, it's going to default to our 12-hour time mode, so our AM, PM. If you have a preference for that military time, so 24-hour time, we can do that. Auto daylight savings time, that's automatically either going to spring us forward or make us fall back an hour, depending on the time of year. Auto time zone update, if we're heading to the east or the west coast, the vehicle will automatically update our time zone depending on where we are. When it comes to Bluetooth, we can turn vehicle Bluetooth off completely. We can add a Bluetooth device, whether that's a cell phone or a Bluetooth data-enabled MP3 player. Phone, very straightforward. That's where we go for our phone settings, adding a phone in. Radio text, do we want that to show up? Yes or no? The radio text is... Let's pull up the audio for a second. This is going to be the radio text, so whether or not that shows up, really a matter of personal preference. 911 assist, I do recommend keeping that one on because if you're ever in an accident, the vehicle is automatically going to call 911 for you. Navigation, we've already been in those navigation settings earlier. A couple other things, we've got some mobile apps. Mobile apps, there are certain ones that will work through the center screen. A couple of them being the Waze app, which would be the big one, so for navigation, if you don't want to use the built-in factory navigation. Got some general settings. So general settings, we can change our language between English, Spanish, or French, Celsius or Fahrenheit, kilometers or miles, the beep that we're getting. Whether or not you want that to happen, you can turn off the beep. So if you're not really a fan of it, you can turn that off. Automatic system updates, I do recommend keeping that one turned on, and the reason why is because it's automatically going to update the software and the firmware on the vehicle for you, with the exception, navigation will not be updated. You have to do that manually as of Sync 3. If you're ever selling the vehicle, or if the vehicle, for whatever reason, if the screen is giving you any sort of issues, you can do a master reset to reset it to your factory defaults. As I mentioned, automatic updates, make sure you turn that one on. You do need to be connected to Wi-Fi at home or connect to your cell phone in order for it to automatically update for you. Fordpass Connect. Now the vehicle is equipped with an onboard modem, so you can use it as a hotspot for up to 10 devices. You do need a third-party data plan, so in Canada it would be on the Bell network, in order to be able to use this setting. But once you're set up, it's very straightforward. All you would do is connect to the vehicle on your phone and you're set to go. Vehicle. Now we've got some settings that are also available. Nothing too crazy. Camera settings, onboard modem serial number. Our display, we've got a couple options, so we can turn the display off completely. So if you have a preference of driving without that display on, we can do that. Touch the screen to turn it back on. Background, we can change the look, and we've got a few different modes. So we're currently in our daytime mode right now. So auto will let the vehicle decide whether it's in daytime or nighttime, depending on how bright it is outside. But I personally love the nighttime mode, so I do recommend, I love blue, and that's the reason why I would always keep it on this nighttime mode. But again, matter of personal preference, you can set it to auto, let the vehicle decide for you if you'd like. Into our voice control settings, we've got a couple options. Advanced mode is going to give us not as many notifications and warnings as we make different prompts in the vehicle. I'll give you an example here. Let's change the radio station for a second. Tune to 94.9.
Tuning to FM 94.9.
Okay, so here we got a confirmation letting us know that it's going to change the station for us. Now let's turn advanced mode on and try that again. Tune to 97.7. Okay, nothing. No message whatsoever, but as you can see in a second, it's changed to 97.7. So it's changed the station for us, and it just hasn't given us as many prompts. So I do recommend keeping that one on. Phone confirmation, do you want to call this person, yes or no? I do recommend keeping that one on. Voice command list is going to be this list here. Does it come up, yes or no? Really just a matter of personal preference. And our valet mode is the last one on this list. 4-digit PIN essentially is going to lock the screen out. So if we do something hard, like a 1111, don't use 1111, make it more challenging, but what it does is it locks the screen out. So now you can't access anything in the vehicle until you enter that 4-digit number again, press done, and it's unlocked everything for us. Jumping back into our console and moving down a tiny little bit, we've got a number of things to point out. So we've got our volume rocker to start. So that's going to let us obviously adjust the volume. We can do that either here or on the steering wheel. We can also manually tune stations. So if you have a preference, if you want to manually tune, or if you've got a passenger that wants to manually tune, they've got the ability to do that using this tuning rocker. Up to the side, at the top, we've got the ability, I should say in the middle, we can tune between stations, so we can use our tuning going left or right. We can turn the system on or off by pressing that button. We can pause or play, so either play or pause if we've got an MP3 player or our phone connected. And we can pull up our audio settings. So we can change the treble, mid-range, bass, so it's just a hotkey, which we can also just press in order to get rid of it. Moving down a little bit, now this is the premium version of the Mustang, which means we've got heated seats, but we've also got cooled seats. So it really, really is nice, especially in the summertime. Days like this when we're sitting at about 40 degrees outside, 40 degrees Celsius, I should say. It is very, very warm, so it is really, really nice to have that setting. Looking along the side, both on the driver and passenger side, we can adjust the heat, or I should say either the heat or the AC. So whatever the temperature is you'd like, you've got the ability to do that for the driver and the passenger side. At the very top, we've got our max windshield defroster. We can turn the system on or off. We can go max air conditioner, regular air conditioner. This is going to let us control our fan speed. We can have the fan blowing towards the windshield, reverse or our rear window defroster, air circulation button, or our auto setting, which lets the vehicle determine what the cabin temperature should be. Moving down a little bit more, we've got our engine start stop button, so we don't have to worry about using a key anymore. And we've got a series of toggle switches now. Then this is something that's unique to the Mustang when we look at the 101 version of the Mustang or above. So that 100 pack will not have the toggle switches, the 101 and above will. We're in the 401 GT, which it's going to look the same across the Mustang lineup, but top switch is going to give us our four-way blinkers. We've got the ability to turn our traction control on or off. This one is going to be our steering wheel setting. So we can go through normal steering, sport, or our comfort steering back to normal. This is going to be our drive mode. So we've got our normal, or sport, track, drag, or snow wet back to normal. And this is going to be settings for the steering wheel and for the suspension and a number of other things. So it's going to tighten things up or loosen them up depending on what setting you're in. So if you're in the comfort setting, you're going to have to spin that steering wheel a few more times to make a turn, versus the sport, it's going to stiffen things up a little bit more. Looking down a little bit, we've got our USB port as well as a traditional cigarette lighter adapter. Now, as I mentioned, this is the 6-speed manual transmission, and you do need to have the stick in order to be able to get the GT Performance Pack Level 2. It's just a must-have. You need to do it. Now, we've also got our cup holders down at the very bottom, as you can see here. So we've got a few cup holders there. And we've got our emergency brakes, our parking brake there. Okay, next up, let's have a peek at the steering wheel, see what this thing is all about. Starting off at the very bottom, we've got our adaptive cruise control. Now, the vehicle is equipped with that Smart and Safe package, which is going to give us that adaptive cruise, and it is beautiful. Now, one thing about the adaptive cruise is that essentially it's a set it and forget it cruise control. So realistically, we're in a manual transmission, so you should really only be using this on the highway. But again, be very, very careful when you do. So with the adaptive cruise, we can turn the system on or off. We know it's on when this pops up on the screen, so the system's on. At the very top, so along the side here, this is going to let us determine how close or how far we are away from the vehicle that's in front of us. So with one lane, we're about half a step, so half a second roughly, and then it goes up about half a second roughly for every one we're above. Once we're at the speed that we'd like, we're just going to set either 1 or 2 here, and then we can either use that, so press either up to increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. When we're driving, we can press this in order to be able to cancel out the speed, or we can turn the system off completely by pressing that button one more time. Up at the top left, we've got a few buttons. These ones are going to let us change the station that we're currently tuned to. We can increase or decrease the volume using the rockers, or we can mute the system. So audio on or off. Along our right-hand side, so a couple things, this is going to be our voice button, so we can use this in order to change the radio station, navigate, or if we want to make phone calls. We can go up or down, that's going to, as you can see on the screen, it's going to allow us to control that screen, and we've got our back button that's going to let us work on the screen also. We've also got our OK button. OK button does a couple things, as you can see on the screen. Let's actually zoom in here a teeny little bit, actually focus in, I should say. We're going to press and hold that OK button in order to reset the trip counter. But if we ever get a message on that center cluster screen, we can press this OK button in order to get rid of it. Moving down a tiny little bit, starting off, we've got our navigation button. So as of right now, we don't have navigation currently going, but we can navigate either home to previous destinations. So that is an address that we've previously found, so we can control that, and it's going to calculate it for us.
Please proceed to the highlighted route, and then the route guidance will start.
And as you can see, it has started that map for us. So that's one of the nice things about this digital dash, is that it does give us the ability, It gives us the ability to be able to set up the navigation directly through this center cluster screen instead. Press that button in order to be able to get rid of it. From here, we've got the ability to either answer or hang up on a phone call, and we've also got our settings button. So we've got some general settings that we can look at. So our trip and fuel info, which is going to be the screen that we're looking at as a default. We've got fuel economy, tire pressure, and then a blank screen. Back to our settings, driver assist, we've got a ton of options. The auto engine off, so that's the one that's going to kill power to the engine when you're stopped at a light. If you don't like that, we can turn it off using this screen. We've also got the blind spot system. Blind spot system, just along our sides, we've got that little guy. So that's gonna highlight orange when somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. So I do recommend keeping that one on. Pre-collision assist is a safety setting. If for whatever reason the vehicle recognizes that there's a potential collision, it's going to actively brake for you. So I do recommend keeping it on. As I mentioned, it's a safety thing. If you're tracking the vehicle, obviously make sure you turn this thing off. Crash traffic alert, if a vehicle is coming perpendicular to you, so either from your left or your right hand side, whether you see the thing or not, it's automatically going to let you know that there's a potential collision. So I do recommend keeping that one on. Again, turn it off if you're tracking the car. Cruise control as a default is going to be our adaptive cruise. If you have a preference to use that normal cruise control, you can, but guys, trust me, once you use the adaptive cruise, you're never going to want to go back to using regular cruise control again. Driver alert is very straightforward. It's tied into our lane keeping system. If you get too many notifications about leaving your lane or getting too many lane departure warnings, it's going to let you know that you should take a rest. Hill start assist, it's essentially going to lock the vehicle in place, giving you a little bit of an easier time in order to be able to get up hills. Rear parking aid is going to be that beeping that we get as we get closer to an obstacle. And we've got our lane keeping system, so it works a couple different ways. So an alert is going to be a steering wheel shake. Best way for me to describe the feeling, imagine if you're going over that rumble pavement on the highway, that's the way it's going to feel. Our aid is going to recenter you and pull you back into your lane, and then the alert and the aid will do both. So it's going to shake the steering wheel and recenter you and pull you away from that lane that you're veering into without signaling. And the intensity is going to be in the intensity of that steering wheel shake, high, medium, or low. Wipers, we've got a courtesy wipe, so when the vehicle first turns on, it's going to wipe once for you. I don't recommend turning that one on, especially if you're driving this thing in the wintertime. If there's ice on the windshield, you're going to end up messing with the motors and the windshield wipers. Just don't do it. Rain sensing wipers, I do recommend keeping that one turned on though, and the reason why is because the vehicle's automatically going to determine how fast or slow the windshield wipers should be going. Now, along the right stick, we can select how fast it goes ourselves also. We've got the ability to select how fast it goes as well from using this knob. So again, really a matter of personal preference there. We've got our speedometer, so as a default, strictly in kilometers, or we can show the miles per hour also. Moving into our advanced settings, so we've got some basic vehicle settings. So our alarm, do we want the alarm? Yes, ask on exit. Easy entry exit has got to do with the seats themselves. So with easy entry exit on, what's going to happen is when you get out of the vehicle, when you open up that door to get out, what it's going to do is it's going to pull the seat back for you, and it's going to, so essentially makes it easier for you to get in and out of the vehicle. Intelligent access has to do with the key fob, lighting, auto lamp delay, when the vehicle's locked, how long do the lamps stay on for, 10, 20, or 120 seconds. Auto high beam, which is automatically, we can control the high beams by using that left stick, but auto high beams automatically going to turn the high beams on or off and dim it for you, just depending on how bright it is outside. So if it's dark outside, if the vehicle senses an oncoming vehicle, it's going to automatically dim the lights for you before flipping them off completely. Locks, what happens with our locks? Auto unlock when it recognizes the fob, mislock, etc. Remote unlock, do all doors get unlocked, or is it just the driver door that gets unlocked? Switch inhibitor has to do with the fob itself. If the vehicle's on, you're not in the vehicle, it essentially makes it so that people can't just get in and drive away. Oil life reset, we are at 100% right now. When you get an oil change done, just press and hold OK, and it's going to automatically reset that for you. Tire mobility kit, as I mentioned, that goop is good for 4 years, so you want to make sure that you have it set for 4 years because you will get a reminder that it needs to be replaced. And our windows remote open, do we want to have that option, yes or no? Let's take a peek outside and see how the remote window opening works on the key fob.
Yeah, we've also got the ability to use the key fob in order to roll down the windows. So on the fob itself, all we're going to do is press this unlock button 3 times. On the third press, we're just going to hold it. So 1, 2, 3 and hold. There you go, you've got your windows down and you're set to go. Now, one thing to note is that it is only power down from the key fob here. You do have to manually roll them back up again.
That's going to be our basic vehicle settings, and we've got My Key now. My Key gives you the ability to set up certain limitations using your key fob. That could be something as simple as make sure that the vehicle can't go past a certain speed. So again, if you're going to be either lending the vehicle out to a friend, to a spouse, you want to play a prank on someone, you would go there in order to create a key to be able to do that. Display setup is going to be what the display looks like. So as of right now, we've got either the gear, the RPM, or none for the tachometer. Measurement units, do we want to measure in liters per 100, kilometers per liter, or miles in gallons? Temperature, do we want to show in Celsius or Fahrenheit? Tire pressure, how is that measured? As well as our language. And that's going to be the basics of our settings. So jumping back, that's also going to be the way that this cluster screen is going to look now. Now, along the very bottom, we've got two more buttons. First one is going to be your audio, so we can change between AM, FM, Sirius, XM. Press it again in order to get rid of that. And lastly, we've also got our pony button. Now, this is when we get into a ton of options for customization for this bad boy. So looking at the basics, so My Mode, that's going to show you, so current status there, jumping back in. My Mode, we can add different modules in there as well. Looking at our exhaust, so the vehicle is equipped with that active valve performance exhaust. We've got 4 different modes, so our quiet, normal, sport, and our track. Let's jump outside the vehicle in order to listen to what that's like. And we've got some ability for track apps as well, so acceleration timer, brake performance, line locks, etc. Make sure that you do have that Fordpass Connect app downloaded on your phone for those track apps to show. Performance shift indicator, it's going to let us know the ideal shift point. We can adjust the shift point. We can get a tone when we should shift, or there's going to be a light mode there as well. So when we should shift, it's going to let us know what's happening. Actually, let's turn that one on for just for the test drive that we're going to do here, just so you can listen to what that's going to sound like. Launch control, really, really nice. We're really kind of taking off on the vehicle. Rev Match is when we're shifting in the vehicle, we're going to hear the RPMs rev up. So the vehicle is going to rev up essentially to match the previous gear that we were in. When it comes to our gauges, so we've got some different options for the gauges, as you can see there. So we've got our brakes, we've got our basic settings there as well. So again, really a matter of preference. Along our side, we do have our oil pressure gauge and our vac gauge. Some of that info is going to be shown, but again, really a matter of preference what ends up showing up there. Pressing that pony going again, we can change the color. So primary color, we've got some options. We can create a unique color as well. Really, it is a matter of personal preference what that looks like. Ambient light color is going to be the light that's inside of the vehicle, so in the cup holders and along a few other areas as well. Whether or not that happens is a matter of choice. You can turn it off, and you can also select the color in the ambient color lighting. You can also create a color down there if you'd like. Last one is going to be our cluster appearance. What's that going to look like? Do we want it to change with our drive mode? So as we select whether it's what the mode is, we can have it automatically update that for us. But if you have a preference of what it looks like, so a lot of people I know love the look of the sport mode. So if we actually jump back out to what that looks like, as you can see here, it's completely tweaked the look of it. So it really is a matter of personal preference what this thing looks like. Play around with this pony setting in order to find the best ones for you. Now, a couple other things to point out. We've already pointed out our right-hand stick. On our left side, we've got the ability to turn those high beams on or off. And along the very side, along the tip, So you can see we've also got this button which is going to turn the lane keeping system on or off. We know it's on or off when these little bowling alleys, the little safety bowling things show up. So we know that the lane keeping system is now turned on. So what that's going to do, it's going to recenter us and pull us back into our lane because that system's turned on. Okay, next up, looking up overhead. So very straightforward. In this thing we do have our traditional sun visor there with the ability to program in codes. If we've got a garage door opener at home, you can program that in. Along the side, we've also got the ability to turn our cabin lights on, so our individual light settings there.
Oh yeah, time for the fun part, guys. Let's take this thing for a spin and see how it is. Oh, that's nice. I know it's warm in here, a little toasty. All right, so as you can see here in the glasses, we do have a message on the screen letting us know fuel level's a little low. If we ever get a message, just press this OK button on the steering wheel. That's gonna get rid of anything in the middle there. Oh, that's good. Okay, what I wanna do, let's change this out to sport steering, as well as our Sport Plus mode. Just because we're in a Mustang that's got the performance pack, so I really want to get a good feel for what it's going to be like in that performance setting. Oh, this is going to be good. Okay, are we looking good? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. The times when you just want to like rip it open. Okay, so here's the kicker. I did put on a system that lets us know when we ideally should change gears. What I'm going to have to do, I'm obviously going to have to rev it up a little bit higher. I'm going to have higher RPMs in order to really get that ding, that message. So I'm just going to drop it down a gear for a second. We're going to hear what rev matching sounds like when I do that. So it automatically revved for us. Oh, that's really nice though. Oh, I am so excited. Yeah, so that revving that we're getting there, that's the Rev Match that's available in the Mustang. You can turn that one off, really a matter of personal preference there. But again, like it just sounds really, really amazing when you do it. This is going to be the one time that I end up stalling a friggin' car, watch. It's been a little while. Okay, so that chime that we just heard, that was the system letting me know that I should be changing gears. So it does happen automatically. If you don't want to, that ding can go away. But on the screen itself, I do have something that also shows us when we should be changing gears, and that's going to be based off of the RPM. So if we look down, so we can see in that 4, so I've got it set to 4,000 RPM, which is when we get that message. So if you want that thing to go away, it is just a setting that's available inside of that cluster screen. We can get rid of it so that it doesn't show whatsoever. We don't get that ding, things like that. Again, it's really a matter of personal preference. If you're newer to the world of driving a manual transmission, it could be beneficial from that perspective until you learn the basics of when you should be shifting gears. Oh, that's nice though. Oh, that is a good feel. Okay, so just one thing to know, regular street driving, as of right now, like I'm going low speed, so I don't really, oh, there we go, okay, a little bit more.
So I don't really notice a ton of difference between this and the standard GT as of yet. Now, having said that, I'm going low speed and I'm not taking hard turns or hard corners at all. So as of right now, I'm not going to be able to feel that Magneride damping system. I'm not going to really be able to feel the benefit of the upgraded K-brace and things like that. Like, it's just not something you're going to start feeling until you get into those quicker turns and those sharper turns as well. So I am going to try to take some sharper turns as we go. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, that's a difference. Huge difference there. So I gunned it a little bit as I was going around that bend, and you could absolutely feel it. Like, it just hugged the road. So when I turn left coming up, same thing. I'm just going to give it a little bit more gas than usual. And traction control's on, so I shouldn't do any sort of fishtailing. Hopefully. Or hopefully I do. It's a little bit too busy to worry about fishtailing right now. So where this performance pack level 1 or 2 really comes into play, are you going to be taking it to the track? If you ever think you are, I do recommend looking at it. You obviously need to make sure that you're in the manual transmission in order to get performance pack level 2. And that's just something that's just from the factory. It's one of those weird combinations that you do need it in order to get the other. So you need one to get the other. Really, if you're a true Mustang enthusiast, these guys, they really love the idea of the manual transmission. And same thing, that 5-liter V8. A lot of Mustang enthusiasts also do recommend that V8 engine as well. Here we go. Hey, this is where we're going to be able to feel this thing a little bit more. So I'm just going to give these folks a second. It is a little bit of a sharper turn here, so let's see. Oh my God. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. It just hugged it. It's, oh, that's really nice. All right, really nice feel. Wow. Okay. Obviously, I knew the GT was going to have power. It's straightforward. I'm not going to use the adaptive cruise control. It's not really that busy out, so it's hard to justify it right now. Oh, but that's nice. Lane keeping system's on, so I'm going to veer over into a lane. And there we go. And it's pulled me over. It started to recenter me, pulled me back into my lane. So that system works really nicely, which really, like, I wasn't surprised that it was going to. It's pretty straightforward. Like, if we look here, so we can see those green things that are highlighted there, lets us know that system's activated. And as I start to veer over, see, look at that. It goes red, and then it pulls me back into my lane. So it's not a self-driving car as of yet. Future Ford vehicles, who knows what's coming down the pipeline? Well, actually, we kind of do know what's coming down the pipeline if we look at it from a technology perspective. So in the 2021 F-150, they're actually introducing hands-free driving, which is an incredible feat for Ford. Like, it's amazing that they are offering that in future vehicles. So the way that it's going to work, very different than the system in Tesla. Because if you look at the Tesla system, your hands need to be on the steering wheel in order for that hands-free driving to work. Now, having said that, in the F-150, your hands don't need to be on the wheel whatsoever. Your hands can literally be anywhere, but your gaze, you have to be looking in front of you. You have to be looking at the road, because they've got cameras that are going to look at your eyes, and the system will turn off if you're not paying attention. So if you're sleeping, napping, looking over, whatever the case may be. So just one of those extra safety features that Ford has. I love it. Oh, that's great. All right, so again, the big question is really going to come down to, do I need the performance pack in the vehicle? So again, it depends. Are you going to be putting it on the track? Yes or no? If you have absolutely zero intention of ever putting your vehicle on the track, you don't really need to pay the extra, you know, $4,500 for level 1, $6,500 for level 2. Now, having said that, if you ever think you might want to, or if you want to increase your car's resale value, then go for it. It's not like it's a ton of money, like $4 or $6 grand. It's not. For what you get in it, the Magneride system alone, like, it's incredibly worth it. The upgraded braces, you know, the K-brace, looking at the upgraded rear sway bar, the track sway bar, the upgraded 6-piston calipers. There's a ton of things that come in this performance pack that just, it makes it worth it. Again, that's a question that you're going to have to ask yourself. Do I think it's worth it? Absolutely. Do you think it's worth it? What's your use of the vehicle? That's ultimately going to be the deciding factor on whether or not you look at investing in that as an option. That is nice, though. I'm going to do a little circle around this roundabout in a second, just to get a little bit more of a feel. Oh, that rev matching too, I love it. Sounds so angry when you get that rev match. Alright, I'm just gonna have to let this guy go a little bit. I'm gonna circle around in second. Alright. Double circle. Oh. Oh, that is beautiful. Oh my God, that is beautiful. Wow. That was nice. Now, I'm not going to push this thing too much. It's a dealership car, but for what I just did in that roundabout, that felt incredible. I was going at low speeds as well, but when I came back out of it, I floored it a little bit, but just the feeling of how that Magneride system is, it like immediately just held that car in and locked it down. Oh, beautiful system. Actually, let's go straight. Yeah, that'll work. Oh, that is so nice. So nice. All right, now, a couple of things. I do have it in the sport steering mode and in the sport drive mode, so things are naturally going to be a little bit tighter in comparison, but with that Magneride system. So the way that the system works is with your typical suspension, when you're turning, your car's going to look kind of something like this. With the Magneride system, it's essentially a mix of iron and oil. So the second that the vehicle recognizes that it needs a little bit more traction, a little bit more oomph to it, what it does is it sends electrical signals which then lock everything down. So instead of your car looking like this around a corner, it'll look like this. Really, really neat the way that the Magneride system works. I love it. I love the feel of it. And for the cost of it, it's absolutely worth it. Now, if you're ever thinking of potentially doing it, make sure you get it done from the factory, because realistically, doing something like that aftermarket, it's very it's going to be cost prohibitive realistically. Now, if you've got an older Mustang, you could absolutely look at doing it, but I do recommend looking at it from a factory option if you are ever considering it. There we go. All right, guys. That was the full overview, the review of the 2020 Mustang GT Performance Pack Level 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have learned a little bit. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them down below. I'm very receptive to getting back to people. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like it, and please subscribe because it does help the channel grow. Until I see you next time, stay safe.